And we are building the foundations here for something that will change the global balance of power. We believe in democracy, we believe in leadership, and we are willing to fight for freedom in every corner.
Where the walls have fallen and we continue to rise.
We are the biggest threats to authoritarianism, to our dictators in our own country.
World Liberty Congress is meeting as a sign of our legitimacy.
What gives World Liberty Congress is give us opportunity to be united, to be heard.
Being the voice for the voiceless.
Here we will be deliberating, discussing, and approving our guidelines for the future of the World Liberty Congress.
All those in favor, show of hands.
I think that today, when we were choosing motions, it was very, very powerful, but it's also giving us an opportunity to feel how it is to have the freedom to choose.
We organize this election to let democracy speak.
I would love to vote.
I voted.
And the Berlin Manifesto will be our guideline for the future.
Yesterday, we did a protest for all the political prisoners in Berlin.
Freedom is not an option. Freedom is a right
For all humankind. Authoritarian regimes are coordinating, and now so are we.
We will be stronger in fighting.
Dictators, we see you and we're coming for you.
Walls fall with rights.
Walls fall, we rise.
We rise.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Leopoldo Lopez. I'm one of the co-founders of the World Liberty Congress. And as you saw, we had our General Assembly. That video was the recap of what we did over the past weekend. We were at the Berlin City Parliament, where we gathered with 180 delegates from 60 countries, 60 autocratic regimes, where there are no elections, there is no rule of law, there are no respects for human rights. Many of us in that assembly have been political prisoners. I myself was a political prisoner for 7 years, and more than 2/3 of the people that are delegates were either detained or political prisoners at some time. Some of us have been forced into exile. Some are still living in their own countries. We are very different. We are a global movement, very different. We have different skin colors, different religions, different languages, different histories. But when it comes to our struggle, our fight for freedom, is as if we were from the same movement since we started. It's really an incredible space for people who dedicate their lives to freedom, because the fight for freedom in places where there is autocracy is a lonely fight. And we have seen that, from solitary confinement to lonely villages, to being in exile, to being incomprehended. It's a lonely fight. So when we find people like us who share the same dream, who share the same values, is a great way to strengthen our fight, our capacity to continue going. We have a commitment. Our commitment is freedom. Our commitment is the respect for human rights, for the rule of law, and for free and fair elections. Why are we in Berlin? Last year, my friend and sister, Masih Ali-Nejad, and I were invited by the city mayor of Berlin to talk in the 35th anniversary of the fall of the wall. And our speech was very simple. We said, you are celebrating the fall of the wall as if it was something of the past, which it was. But we want to talk to you about the present walls, the walls that are dividing our societies today, the walls that divide the women from the Middle East, from the rights to be treated equally and with dignity. The walls in places like my home country, Venezuela, Uganda, Rwanda, Hong Kong, China, and many other countries that today have risen walls that have to be torn down. And the mayor liked what we said. And he said, well, what can we do to support your mission? And our answer was, well, the same way that Paris organizes the Paris Fashion Week, why don't we organize the Berlin Freedom Week? And that's how this idea started. So we started the idea of the Berlin Freedom Week a year ago. and there is going to be 130 events that will take place throughout this week. Some large, like the Berlin Freedom Conference that took place on Monday, or the General Assembly. Some smaller, like this gathering. There will be art installations, film festivals, but it's all around this idea of freedom. There is no city like Berlin that symbolizes not just the struggle of freedom, but the victory of those who want to be free over tyranny. The walls came down without anybody planning that it was going to happen that day. There was a small crack that opened. It opened with a press conference that was given, and there was no clarity on that message given by the East Berlin government. And all of a sudden, people started to cross the wall. So it was a crack that ended up tearing the entire wall down, and that wall came down, and the entire Soviet bloc came down. And the people in East Berlin are like the people in our countries. That sentiment of freedom is alive in our countries as it was in East Berlin before the wall fell down. So that's our sentiment. We feel identified with the struggle for freedom of the city, and with also the hunger to be free of the people of our countries. So one of the challenges that we all have in our countries is how we organize the resistance against the regimes. Many of us have been leading resistance movements in our countries. Many of us have gone to prison because leading resistance movements. And today we want to have the afternoon session to talk about this concept, democratic decentralized resistance. There is a lot of talk about the use of technology for freedom, but there are a few tools that can really be used at the grassroots level. What I see my voice over there. All right. I know that guy. So what are we trying to do here? We want to use some innovations that are available today in order to make our capacity to do two things that are crucial for resistance movements. Tools that are a means to an end, not tools that are an end in itself. The end is freedom. The means to that end are the capacity to do two things that are severely constrained in our countries. And those two things are, one, how to communicate freely, how to communicate anonymously, how to communicate privately, and two, how to send and receive resources. Those are two pillars of the resistance movements all over the world, whether it's in Venezuela or in Hong Kong or in Zimbabwe. So we will be talking about how this new protocol for communicating that is called Noster will allow our activists in each country to communicate in a way, as I said before, that is anonymous, private, and it has an additional aspect that makes it very powerful. That is how to send resources immediately. So basically, for the activists that are here, people who are until this moment, but you will be very knowledgeable at the end of the afternoon, this protocol Noster is like X, but it has something that makes it very different. One, there is not an owner behind it. Nobody owns it. Nobody owns it. It's being developed by people like Pablo, who came all the way from Madeira to be with us, and many, many other developers. So there is no owner of this protocol. And number two, something that is very important. In your account, you don't only have the retweet or the resend or the heart to give a like. It has a lightning bulb like that, which allows immediately, just with the push of a button, to send and receive Bitcoin. And that is very powerful. This is something that we believe is going to create the possibility for movements to be supported, to create incentives for people to be engaged. It's not the same thing to get a like, that is just a heart, than to get some sats, which is a fraction of a Bitcoin. So these are some of the things that we will be talking about. So what do we have in the program today? First, we will have a conversation with some of the activists that we are working to deploy this initiative in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, and in the Middle East. We will hear from them, their experiences, and then we will like to hear from the developers. That is, the people who are behind this technology. What are the challenges? What are the innovations? What are the things that this can contribute in order to make resistance to autocratic regimes more effective? And we would like to have a closing session where we bring activists and the developers together. And our expectation for the closing of today is to have a way forward, to have a common plan where we bring activists, we bring developers into a way forward to what we want to do with this democratic, decentralized resistance. I want to thank all of the organizers. I want to thank Anna for the great job of organizing this event. I want to thank our supporters, the Human Rights Foundation, the World Liberty Congress, the Reynolds Foundation. I want to thank all of you, and I invite you to ignite your spirit of freedom. Many of the people that are in this room have been victims of regimes. People in this room have been tortured, imprisoned, sent into exile. But we want to make it very clear. We are not victims. We don't see ourselves as victims. We have the spirit of freedom fighters, people that are hungry for freedom, people. So the spirit, the energy that we want is the energy of people that want to see freedom flourish in all of our countries. Yes, there are stories that are difficult, but we are not in the business of collecting tears. We are in the business of tearing down walls and making the people rise and make freedom happen. That is our business, tearing down the walls. That is our commitment. That is why we are here. So I invite, again, all of you to have energy, to have an open mind, to have optimism, and to know that every single one of you is a drop in the sea for freedom in the world. Thank you very much. So,
around the world, authoritarian regimes are weaponizing technology. They use censorship and digital control to silence dissent and restrict freedom. But the same tools being used to oppress can also be reclaimed to protect. Democratic Decentralized Resistance was created to explore how open, transparent, and community-driven technologies can restore autonomy, where centralized power has taken it away. Launched in 2025, the program has its focus on supporting activists to protect their privacy and overcome censorship under repressive conditions.
okay, so that's our first panel. So I would like to ask Courtney, Samadi. Samadi's here? No, it's not.
Alexa
and Aaron from Venezuela, from Zimbabwe, and from Nicaragua. Welcome. Okay, so This is a panel, so we get a sense of who are the activists behind this initiative. As I said before, we are starting with some pilot countries, and I would just like to start with a brief introduction of each one of you. Where do you come from and why this is relevant? So we can start with you, Courtney, or no, with you, Alexa. Sorry, ladies first.
Well, my name is Alexa Zamora. I'm from Nicaragua. A very restrictive environment now. I'm in exile. Been human rights activist and democracy fighter for around 10 years. And I've been working in digital rights, digital rights and cybersecurity in the last 5 years. And I want also to show Berta Valle, who is not here today, but she was the person who invited me to be part of this initiative. And she has been one of the central persons in promote this strategy to counteract censorship in Nicaragua. So I want to thank her for this opportunity and to share with you guys.
Thank you, Alexa. Thank you. Now we will hear from Courtney from Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much, Leo. My name is Courtney. I am from Zimbabwe, and I always joke around with people that I am from a country where at one point everyone was a billionaire because of very serious inflation in 2008. But I'm here today to speak about Bitcoin and Nostra, and I'm so excited about this because this applies not just within the human rights space in Zimbabwe, but even beyond in other communities as well, where issues of transparency, freedom, and inflation are ravaging in my country. I have been working in the area of civic engagement and technology for the past 5 years. So I'm excited to be with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Courtney. Now we'll move on to Samadhi from Cambodia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. As you know, I'm from Cambodia, authoritarian country. The leader has been there for 40 years. As a result, I have a friend that named Anna Chekovich. She showed a presentation that she's able to provide money into the country like Russia under Putin. And as a result, she's using Bitcoin to send those type of money. And it was inspiring. And Leo came to me saying, do you want to do the same projects? And I say, yeah. So as you know, in Cambodia in 2013, we have a brief movement of opposition movement. We won 55 seats in the parliament. And then the regime decided to close down the country again in 2017 and full-on authoritarian, kicked out all of NGO and CSO. As a result, now we thinking ahead, we say, if we keep sending money through traditional route, they can track down every single person inside the country and list them as traitor or foreign agent. And then they can sentence to life in jail and sometime being tortured. As a result, we came up with the Nostra projects that allowed us to send money into the country untraceable and provide on-the-ground movement. When a transition happened, you would never know when it happened. Just like Nepal, Bangladesh, out of nowhere, the people took over, the power of the people took over, and then the government have a transition. But now, are we ready to transition? And this is the type of program that allowed us to mobilize on-the-ground movement, preparing for non-violence, democratic transition into a democratic Cambodia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we have Mariam from Iran.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mariam. I'm from Iran.
Put your closer.
Sure. My story about sending money to people in Iran, our freedom fighters who are severely acting against Islamic Republic regime and IRGC, the Revolution Corps that directly killing the people and shutting in their eyes. During the Women Life Freedom Movement in 2020, we realized that with any ways that we send money to our freedom fighter in Iran, inside Iran, they're gonna get tracked and they're gonna be in a jail. They're gonna be sentenced to getting like 2-3 years in jail just having any transaction money with Iranian diaspora outside of Iran. So we decided to use Bitcoin to send money to them inside of Iran to help them to do their street fights and help people like they got victims, help people that got injury and with Bitcoin we did very great projects, and we have like more than 100 people in our group in a chain, decentralized. They are no one knows each other, but they are working closely to help each of those to helping them to fight against Islamic Republic.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mariam. Now, Aaron from Venezuela.
Hi, thank you. My name is Aaron. I'm an activist for freedom since 2007. In our country, last year we had a presidential election, the one that Maduro decided to steal. And after that, our country changed a lot. People were criminalized, they imprisoned people for using WhatsApp, for posting on Twitter. They blocked X. They decided to go and make people sharing status on their WhatsApp with their ideas, and they imprisoned around 2,000 people, 2,000 political prisoners in 1 month. After that, 6 months, I had to hide. I was running all the time, and I have to be forced to exile around February 7. And when I came to Madrid, I talked to Leopoldo, and he told me about this democratic decentralized resistance. And people decided in Venezuela to go away from the social media. The social media shut down, basically in Venezuela. People decide to be silent because they were scared. Because of the fear, the people they were going, the national police were going to your door and knock your door and take your family and take the kids and put it in prison. So for us, Nostr has been like a tool to preserve their identity. Right now, they're trying to steal your identity. They try to steal your nationality. And we are here delivering solutions from the experience of all developers to our people who still fighting for freedom. So we are so thankful for you to come here and to share the experience with us, because we would like to create and sign this manifest today to keep fighting for freedom, to keep delivering tools for the people that are in our country. And as Leopoldo said, we are not here collecting tears. We are here fighting for freedom and encourage people to keep fighting and to make freedom come back to our countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I would like to have a comment from each one of you. We can start with you, Courtney, that you have the microphone. Tell us about the training that you have been doing in Zimbabwe. I mean, you've been already training people into Bitcoin and Nostr. Can you just tell us a little bit about your experience and the reaction of the people in Zimbabwe to this new way of communicating and receiving and sending resources?
Okay, thank you very much, Leo. So when we finalized that we should start training people on Bitcoin and Nostr, we narrowed down to train human rights activists, freedom fighters, and those that are working in the NGO and civic society space. The reason is because these are the people that have faced the most threats when it comes to speaking freely on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and the experience is the same in Venezuela and in Zimbabwe as well. We had members of parliament being arrested simply for tweeting. And these tweets are considered offensive, insulting the president. So this gave us an opportunity. We realized that there was a gap where we could come into. And we started our training late last month. and we started with a group of students who are working in the area of freedom, in the area of human rights, and there's a group called Zimbabwe National Students Union. This group is very vocal when it comes to educational freedom, when it comes to freedom within the schools, within campuses. So we took them, we invited them, and we did a training with them. We started the first training and we had a record number of 37 students that gathered to receive information with regards to how they can sign up to Nostra, number one. Number two, how they can send and receive Bitcoin in cases of emergency, because most of them were engaging in demonstrations where they would be arrested and they would urgently need to have money to pay for their bail when they get arrested, or in any event, money to pay for lawyers that could represent them. So we did a training and we trained the first batch of 37 students. And just a week before traveling here, we did another training as well, focusing on students, because it was very easy and quite acceptable within groups of young people to train about these new technologies, because as compared to older counterparts, they tend to have it easy to understand. So we have onboarded so far more than 60 young people on Nostra, training them on the basics and fundamentals of Bitcoin, how they can freely express themselves. But we've even realized a lot of interest from other communities like refugees. We have a refugee camp in the southeastern part of Zimbabwe, and next week we will be having a session with them. We also had, surprisingly, members from church communities that could invite us. And I had my friend Aaron joining me on a panel session to train and help these people with regards to how they can freely express even their religious views and also send and receive money using Bitcoin. Amen. Yeah.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you. Just one quick question and a short answer. The people that you're onboarding on Nostra are active after they are onboarded or not? I mean, what are the challenges that you see with the people using Nostra?
So the challenge that we are noticing is that a lot of people are finding this a new technology and mostly comparing it to X and to Facebook. And the challenge also is that a lot of them did not know prior about Bitcoin, which is one of the most advantages of having to onboard yourself on Nostra. So that is the area that needs us to work a little bit extra hard so that they get to know the benefits of using Nostra.
Thank you. Now, Alexa, what has been your experience in Nicaragua? What groups are you working with to give them these tools?
Well, first, I must say that this project came in the best moment for Nicaragua. Recently, the law of convergent telecommunications was approved. And the purpose of this law is censor the online activism, control the social media, and shut down all those pages and the work that the journalists are doing in exile to block the access of the people to this information. So we are now working with two main target or publics. We are training activists, but we are also training journalists about the use of the Nostra platforms. And it has been a very interesting project for the journalists because they are very worried about how they can win against the censorship that the regime is establishing. And by the other hand, another main challenge for activists and journalists is how to make their projects sustainable. The thing that I'm going to say is nothing new for you. You cannot resist, you cannot make activists, you cannot make your work without money. But the people is afraid to give direct support to the people who is making this job, because they don't want the government to monitor that they are supporting them, because they don't want to be in prison. And sometimes you want to support and be anonymous doing that support. So that's why we are showing the people the relevance of use these new platforms to change the game, to be one step more fast than the regime, because the regime don't know about this technology. And the main challenge that we are facing is, the first one is to spread the word. This network is not going to work if the people is not in it and it is not active in it. But we have been very successful with the people that we have get into this project, that they are very active publishing every day and sharing this project with the people that they know. Because one thing that we take in account is every person has a circle of influence, and part of the strategy is bring your circle into this. And the other challenge, and it was a challenge for me too, I have to say, is how to make the Bitcoin tangible. For the people, Bitcoin is something very abstract. And I remember giving some sats to the people and saying, well, why you don't give me real money? And this is real money. But if we don't make it tangible to the people, they will not realize about that. So we need to make it more easy to the people to understand how this works and why it's important to our job, and making a day-by-day stuff.
Thank you, Alexa. So Samadi, what about Cambodia? I know that you live in exile, but there is a huge movement in Cambodia that has been pushing for freedom and democracy. Who are you working to train? I mean, what is the network that you're tapping into?
So as you know, basically the people that we work with is from environmentalists, opposition, and also journalists. As you know, the new administration in the US have completely destroyed the foundation of the US soft power, which is, we all know, USAID. And USAID has sponsored Radio Free Asia to spread the news into Cambodia to the Cambodian people to listen, and also help for the election campaign of, a democratic voices or opposition party inside the country. The people that we work with, so basically after DOS was gone, we say, okay, we're going to keep sending money through traditional route like MoneyGram or Western Union. But those was traceable. Just last month, the government of Cambodia, the regime, we called it, passed a new law that revoked your citizenship. So if they found that you link or receive money from an organization like, our organization is Khmer Movement for Democracy, and they saw that, this being sent by this foundation into Cambodia, or like Human Rights Foundation or Liberty Congress, then they would get their citizenship revoked and then punished for being linked with foreign, institution. So we use this first to send money. The challenge is, how can we convince a population of people in Cambodia who's afraid of change? Our country of genocide. As a result, when the regime keeps saying change will happen, if you would like to pursue change, the same thing will happen again. So those people is very scared to changes. So first we say, how about you go get that medicine at that place? I pay through Bitcoin for them to go get that medicine for free. They say, are you sure we can go get that Tylenol for free? In Cambodia, it's like a pack of Tylenol is like $50. As a result, I say, this is the power of Bitcoin. I send them the Bitcoin, and that place will send you the product to you. So as a result, now we have a media. We want to record what's going on and prepare for the upcoming election. We need camera equipment and so on. So basically, we bought them gift card like Apple or Sony. In this case, we give it to them, mail it to them, and through a PO box that does not show the house address. They just go pick up the gift card and go buy the equipment. So that that's how easy it is to use NASTA, and DDR, decentralized resistance, through Bitcoin. So this is how we mobilize movement through, medicine or camera equipment or gift card or even Visa credit card. You can top up to $1,000 inside Cambodia through Thailand. So that's how simple it is for them to use it physically. As you know, when I say send them, yes, you send it to them, but you want to make them believe first that this, you can get the physical product out of this. And after they believe, then the second step is to say, okay, now you try to use that Bitcoin to go purchase this gift card or medicine or camera equipment yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Samari. Marian, one of the opportunities that the resistance in Iran has is the power of women. Women don't have the same rights that men. Women have been marginalized. There is actually an apartheid against women in Iran. That is why you and others, Masi, are leading the gender apartheid movement. So can you give us some ideas of how this type of tools to communicate, to receive and send resources would be a way of continuing that energy, that drive that we saw in the streets, because it was because of the hijab that the women took the streets only 2 years ago. Maybe before that, people thought that it was just the hijab, it was just covering their hair, but it was because of that the women took the streets, and the women taking the streets with the support of everybody, that there was this cry for freedom. So what are your thoughts?
So, I listen to these guys, and the way that they are sending the money and to their countries, or even you're saying you have Apple Pay, or you have like credit card, you have like Visa, you have the way for the financial transaction in your country. But in Iran, because of the order of the supreme leader of Iran, there is no SWIFT. There is no good transaction between Iranian people inside Iran and outside. Even for like a foreigner student who lives in Germany, their family cannot send the money in an official way and lawful financial way to send the money to their children, to their students. So Iran is a completely different. Plus, we are on a huge sanction. So if the freedom fighters or people at like diaspora outside of Iran, we have a group of people who lives in United States, and we raise the money, I'm a tech guy. So my friends, those tech guys create a system, and we raise like money for freedom fighter inside Iran. But that was a big challenge to send this money to the people inside of Iran. So we use these kind of tools to empower our people. But it's like a very complicated and hard path to get money, like the Bitcoin and like digital money, and make it tangible and make it real to Iran. And it's like a huge risk for my chain, for the political prisoners, for the women who are in like a front line fighting with Islamic Republic, to get this money and help them. It's a big challenge, and it's like, I can explain the way that I'm doing. I was talking to my friend, and I was like, I'm not going to explain how I send money to Iran, because it's very confidential, and especially I'm going to be in risk. That does not matter. I don't care. But about the people inside of Iran, I have to protect them, because anyways, if they figure out and realize anyways that we send money to the political prisoners, to the women, to the people who are sacrificing their life in Islamic Republic, so they're gonna sentence to jail at least for 3 to 10 years. Even like having a single tweet about something. And but I'm gonna proudly say during the woman life freedom since 2020 until now, during the war between Iran and Israel, we helped many people. We were, you know, like every time any political prisoner got arrested, they get their phones, all the digital things, their laptops, everything, and they are banned to work. Women, when you get arrested and when you go to jail and you have a case in a court in Islamic Republic, then you cannot work. No one can offer you a job. And, you know, people are like, they cannot do anything and they need this money. So we are creating our group and this chain to help them, especially for the families of justice, for the families who lost their beloved ones during fight with Islamic Republic, and the political prisoners who are in the front line for fighting against Islamic Republic. With this chain, we help them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So this is the beginning of an ongoing conversation that we will have. As I said before, we're starting with these countries as a pilot in order to bring activists. So in a couple of months, we will have a lot more feedback. They are working together. This is a program of the World Liberty Congress. But the idea is that the people that you see here today, they are working with people inside their countries, onboarding people into Noster, showing them about these tools. We will be learning how to improve, make them more efficient. And the idea is that this spreads, that it becomes a tool. We will hear later today about some other tools. Let me just give you an example. We all know that only 3 weeks ago or a month ago, there was a movement in Nepal. The Gen Z decided to take the streets. They took the streets because there was a restriction to their rights to access internet. So they took the streets because they were blocking the people from having access to internet. So what they did was they downloaded another tool, another technology tool that is called BitChat. We will hear from one of the developers of BitChat today, and they were able to communicate without having internet. How does that work? Well, it works with a mesh, like connecting different phones through Bluetooth, and different phones connect in Bluetooth, and it creates like a spider web of connection. And that spider web of connection allows everybody to have connectivity. There were tens of thousands of downloads of this tool that allowed the people protesting in the street to be communicated. What happened? They took the government down. The government went down because the Gen Z people were in the streets and they were protesting in a way that they could not be stopped. So these are different tools that are available. We all come from countries where there has been protests. We all know what it means to have a protest in the context of an internet shutdown. It's chaos, it's paranoia, it's this lack of coordination, but we will have a way to continue to be connected, communicated, and to send and receive resources. More to come. So before we move to the next panel, I would like to ask if anyone has any questions to this great panel of activists, women and men who are at the front lines of the decentralized resistance. Our spokesperson recently elected, Shemi Lau, recently elected as the spokesperson of the World Liberty Congress.
Thanks, folks, for sharing your experiences and also being in the front lines of the movements. My question is, have you seen your oppressor or your dictatorships or authoritarian regimes? How have they responded when you organized? in terms of, you're coming up with solutions, and that's clearly a challenge for them. And so naturally, autocrats are very good at adapting. That's one thing that as a Tibetan we face, right? The Chinese government is very on top of the new strategies that we're applying. And that's what makes them so good at what they do to oppress, is that they adapt. So how has the authoritarian regimes responded to your organizing, and have they and how have you folks, sort of navigated those challenges? And especially as you navigate freedom funds and freedom money, what are the tactics that they're using to restrict you to expand? One, and two, some of you folks mentioned how you're training other people in this. So how do you build a network of trust in this decentralized, unknown, faceless space, which is also a threat for us because we suffer from infiltration and paranoia about that as well?
Thank you.
Thank you, Shami.
Well, first of all, I'm going to start for the second question. For us, it's clear. I mean, we knew the problem. We all know the problem. We just need the solution. So once we can get a solution, we have the network. So our network is started with confidence. Of course, it could be a risk. I mean, we are all exposed. I'm in exile. I don't know if someone inside the network, it could be. Could be someone inside the network, probably. But we don't care about that pattern. We need to keep forward. We need to keep onboarding people. We need to keep teaching them about all this new technology, because we are not developers. We are freedom fighters. We are fighting against this dictatorship. And the second part is like, it's how do they respond? We've been working with Bitcoin in Venezuela, I don't know, probably 4 years ago. And we have been supporting political prisoner families. We have been sending money for people to go to and help them to buy medicine, as my brother said. And we've been helping them in many, many ways. And sometimes you only need, with Nostr, I don't know if you know about how does it work, but with the SAT fund that we are creating, we're sending small amounts of resources for these people. Sometimes when you want to apply for a grant, you need many, many things to do. They ask for many papers. You even have to travel to another country. But right now, we will send small amount of SATs, 20,000 sats to any one of them, and they will be able to do and take a plan and execute it without even the dictator knowing. And the final answer is it's been easy because they cannot control the Bitcoin. Bitcoin has no borders. Bitcoin has no banks. Bitcoin is self-custody, and that's what we are promoting in our countries.
Thank you.
It's freedom.
Alexa.
I think that the main answer to your first question is this principle. They cannot ban what they cannot control. The way that dictatorship work, it is holding the power and using it to control everything, and even the people's life. But if you have tools that are unblockable, untraceable, and unstoppable, that give us the power to empower people. And they don't learn so fast. The thing is that they work together and they share strategies. And most of the time they are one step ahead of us. But this time we are one step ahead. We are sharing the knowledge, and we need to keep thinking one step ahead. And the second thing brings me to this theory that I love of Sergio about recruiting. You recruit the people you trust in. Each person has a circle of trust, your circle of influence. You are going to start recruiting the people you trust in. But at a certain point, this is going to be so big that you are not going to be able to know every person who's in there. But part of this dynamic is also develop new skills to being able to block any attempt to make it an unsafe place. It is like everything. You have the community that you build at the end of the day.
So to answer Chimi's first question, okay, what have the regime countered? So there's two things that the Cambodian government did take action. One is to, they call it the Great Wall. So the government of Cambodia go to China government and say, can you please implement internet that centered everything you control in China, the same thing in Cambodia, to control people, to trace people. As a result, this is why the DDR, the Nostr projects have VPN in it. As a result, this VPN can open all those block routes that has been implemented by the regime. And second, just last month, they implemented a law to revoke our citizenship. Whatever people found linked with us, they're going to receive the consequences inside and outside. So what do we do? So this DDR, you don't read email or name, you can just register anonymously. You cannot find the trace of person who joined this apps or uploaded picture or, ideas or news into this app. So it's untraceable. This is how we're able to counter those, the initiative that the regime took. And second question would be, what is it, Chimi?
No, that was it.
Okay, yeah. But yes, that's the first question.
Thank you. So we need to wrap it up. So let's give a big round of applause to these courageous women and men. Thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to our next panel. Our MC for the second part will introduce our next guests, and what we will see now is the discussion on the part of technology. I mean, we saw what this means for people at the front lines, but we do want to hear about what's behind all of this. This is something that is growing from the bottom up. It's participatory. It's being built by many people. The idea of this event is that they hear what is happening in the ground. Yeah, there was some smoke behind it. They were very exciting. So thank you. And Anna?
Yeah.
Continue. Something else? Yeah, me. So Pascal will be introducing our next panel. Thank you, Pascal.
Hi, also welcome from my side. I'm very glad that I can be here. I feel very honored. I will also give you a little bit of context of the space and where we are. But before we start with that, there is a beige tote bag missing that says Democratic Decentralized Resistance. Has anyone seen it? Very important. Anyone? Please come to us and talk to us when you found it. And now to thank you for coming, all of you. I think it's always interesting to know each other a little bit. I'm going to ask questions throughout the day as I lead you through the day. I want to know how far away you are from. Who was traveling less than 10 minutes to come here? Who was traveling more than an hour? No, an hour or less to come here. Okay. Less than 3 hours. Okay. Less than 5 hours. 10 hours. 15 hours? Who has taken more than 15 hours to get here? Wow. Nice. Thanks for coming to this very important event. And to that, I do like, so this space was not only picked because it's a very beautiful space and it's very nice to have the conference here. It's also picked because it has this like underground vibe, cypherpunk, and also the story of the whole club is actually like of this whole complex is very interesting. It came into existence because the fall of the wall and the freedom and the resistance that people took. So like after the fall of the wall, there were many free spaces. And then Berliners as they are, and as you know them, like not caring about shit and just taking their freedom where it belongs, they started taking empty spaces. So here was an empty space and they built Bar 25 for it. Anybody had been to it? Bar 25? No, me neither. Too young. But then people wanted to buy the space, right? It's right at the river and so on. So they had to move on the other side. They built another club there. They were coming back to this side and they were building a new club. And then it's hard to actually make money. So like they got an investor and then they started building it with them. So it's also sustainable. And with this, you have this whole complex now of the Holzmarkt next door, of the club, like we're actually right next to a club. This used to be the restaurant. And if you go to Holzmarkt, you have everything. You can have drinks there. There's a kindergarten. There is, I think, even a barber. There's a bakery. All these kind of things. You can even pay with Bitcoin in the cafe if you want to try that later. And Urban Myth had it that Tarantino was a big fan, and he also came here and would be like, oh, I want to have the freedom of having a vodka slide. And you got the vodka slide. That is very privileged freedom. But it was this thing of like, you could actually come to a space and be whoever you want to be. And this is like this privilege of freedom that we're taking, which is obviously not what you have to endure otherwise. About me, the last time I was standing here, I actually also talked about my vision of bringing communities together to build resistance. That was my birthday. Now I'm standing here to talk about the technology of resistance. And apart from that, I'm teacher of behavioral economics. I'm have been in the blockchain space for ages and moderator, consultant, and I like to call myself social hacker. And some organizational things for us. The toilets are there. The coffee is here. We have a laid back approach to this conference. That means, as you can see, when you looked into the brochure, that the time is not always perfectly right, but also giving due respects to some things that want to be or need to be talked about. So this is something that you will see, but you will see all the speakers and the kind of schedule in the brochure if you look at it. And please talk to each other, stay curious, listen to each other, respect each other. We can learn from each other a lot. And now coming to the next topic. Who of you is using Nostr? Nice. We will learn more about Nostr in a second. For that, we're going to have a video in a second, and then Jeff is going to introduce you and bring us into more depth of this topic. Thank you very much, and see you in a bit.
Nostr is a protocol for human connection. Your identity cannot be stolen, and your network can't be censored. Nostr enables people to speak, organize, and publish without relying on centralized servers or corporate gatekeepers. It's the foundation of a new kind of internet, one that belongs to its users, not its owners.
But now it was
I'm talking. Okay. No, there was some confusion. Yeah, go for it. Do you have a clicker for me to? Okay, perfect. Okay. We'll give him 1 second. Is this thing working? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
No, not much. Okay, I'll talk right up against it. So my name is Jeff Gardner. I am the creator of a product called White Noise, which is a messenger. And underneath that messenger is a protocol called Marmot. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about kind of messengers in general and how we are working on making end-to-end encryption work on Nostr. For those of you who aren't aware, one of the really interesting parts about Nostr is that we don't have to rely on big centralized servers anywhere. We use relays, which are effectively really stupid servers that we treat as completely commodity. You can lose a relay, you can change relays anytime, and that's one of the features of Nostr, but it makes building things in a private way much more difficult than if you've got full control over the server. So this is about building state-of-the-art private communications. I grew up at the beginning of the internet. This was my first messenger, AOL Instant Messenger. I was probably like 11 or 12 when I first got onto AOL, which was the big thing in America. We all, they just started sending CDs in the mail to everybody. Everybody started installing these CDs, and immediately you are connected to the entire world, which, for an 11-year-old kid before, at the very beginning of the internet, that was like absolute magic. Some of you, if you were playing around on the internet long ago, might recognize things like ICQ or IRC. These were sort of the initial chat apps that were out there. Obviously, now we have a few more chat apps around. There are literally dozens and dozens and dozens out there that do all manner of different things and do those things in varying degrees of security, privacy, and safety. Actually, quick show of hands. How many people here use WhatsApp? Wow. Okay. How many people here use Signal on a regular basis? Okay, that's good. That's much better. How many people use Telegram? Okay. Okay, cool. How many people here know the difference in the security model between the three of those things? Okay, a fair number of people. Okay, cool. So I think the thing I want to start with is that most messengers today are not actually private and secure. I actually would say Signal is probably the only really credible one that is, has any sort of mass adoption. They all require centralized services to function, including Signal. You have to connect to the Signal servers. You have to trust that they're going to treat your data well. All of those centralized servers can be shut down. Signal has a $50 million a year operating budget just to keep those servers running. So if they run out of money, those servers go off and none of us have Signal anymore. Obviously, Facebook has to run all the servers for WhatsApp. They've got very deep pockets, so that's unlikely to happen. But Facebook controls your identity completely. They also control your data completely. And most of the things that are extremely secure kind of have limited scalability. Signal came along at the kind of beginning of the 2010s with the original kind of double ratchet encryption algorithm, which was the first time that anybody had figured out a way to make it so that anytime a key leaked, the attacker wouldn't get all of your past messages and all of your future messages. So that was a really big breakthrough, and it was a really big deal. And actually, in the years just after Signal came out, we saw that things like WhatsApp, things like Facebook Messenger adopted that double ratchet algorithm, but they did it in slightly different ways. And those slightly different ways actually matter a lot when it comes to privacy. So since we're talking about Nostr, I view Nostr as a significant leap towards a free and open internet. When I looked at Nostr, for the first time almost 3 years ago at this point, it was very janky. It barely worked. And the only applications that were around looked a lot like Twitter, just a very broken version of Twitter. But I didn't actually see a social media feed. I actually looked at the underneath, underpinnings of Nostr and said, this is actually the internet all over again. Like, we can rebuild every service that you can see on the internet with this new model that gives users total control over their identity and their data. So Nostr is this censorship resistant, identity portable, communications protocol. There is no central control. We have all these relays all over the place that, any of them can go down, and Nostr doesn't go down. So it is built to resist censorship. It also is built on cryptographic identity, which means that your identity goes with you. And if you lose your identity, it's gone forever. So that's another piece. There is no password reset. There's no, account recovery. You have to look after your keys. And I think the thing that makes Nostr quite different than a lot of the other decentralized protocols out there is that it's extremely simple. It's extremely simple to build on. You can get a working Nostr client up in just an hour or two. And that is a bit of a double-edged sword. Because it's really simple, it's great to get started on. Because it's really simple, it's hard to do really complex things with. And Nostr, unfortunately, for a very long time, completely lacked any sort of privacy whatsoever. It was built around the idea of social media, which doesn't need privacy. You want to broadcast to as many people as possible. And so you were publishing these notes to these relays that you didn't have control over in plain text. This is a lot like the early internet. The early internet had no encryption for years and years and years. And so it's kind of unsurprising that we would start in the same place with Nostr. But we all knew that we needed private communications on Nostr if this thing was going to be useful for anything beyond just, sharing thoughts or broadcasting to other people. So before we get into the kind of more detailed part of this, private versus confidential, and this is like a really important distinction. Private means that, an observer cannot tell that Alice and Bob are talking to one another, right? This is more about the metadata that goes around with the messages and the things that you're doing. And metadata is really, really important. The ex-head of the NSA once said in an interview, we kill people based on metadata. So it's really, really important that your communications stay private. Confidential, on the other hand, is that the actual content of the message is encrypted. That part is surprisingly a lot simpler. There are many different ways to encrypt messages. And keeping that encryption in safe basically is about keeping the keys safe to the encryption. So, as I talked about before, Signal came out with this really amazing double ratchet algorithm that really changed how we were able to communicate online. The issue with the Signal protocol, though, has always been that it's not very scalable. In a Signal group, the way that it works is effectively each person in the group has to send an individually encrypted message to every other person in the group when you're having a conversation. So as you can imagine, as groups get really big, this gets really, really hard to deal with, especially on a phone. Now, Signal has done a lot of work in the intervening years to sort of make this work well, but it requires $50 million worth of servers and a whole lot of complicated cryptography. So it's not fundamentally that scalable. And I don't know if you've ever noticed, but Signal actually has a 1,000 person limit on the size of a group. So you can't do gigantic broadcast groups on Signal. So MLS is a new protocol, a newish protocol. It's an internet standard that came out in July of 2023 after about 7 or 8 years worth of really detailed academic work. And the MLS protocol was basically trying to take what Signal did, but come up with a much more efficient way to share the keys around. And this part here at the beginning, key agreement and distribution, that seems straightforward, but it's really difficult in a way that actually protects all of those keys and makes sure that only the right people have access to the right stuff. So the MLS protocol is a very complicated internet standard, but it did actually, I think, succeed in doing what it set out to do, which was coming up with a way to make something like the Signal protocol, something that's very, very secure, more scalable and extensible for more use across the board. And so this is what I chose when I decided to start trying to figure out how we were going to do private messaging on Nostr. I had looked at the Signal protocol, and in the end, it just clearly wasn't going to work. And so I started to research into how MLS works and how we might be able to apply this on Nostr. And I'm going to fly through this part because this stuff is very technical. But for the people who have a little bit of curiosity here, the way that MLS works is it actually structures a group into what's called a binary tree. And there's keys at all these different levels. And when anything in the group changes, all of the keys get rotated in different formats. And so when you add someone to a group, you actually add them over here, or you add them over here, and then you add extra keys into the tree. And this means that everybody in the group always has this shared state among them that says, these are the people in the group, and hidden under the, behind the curtain, here are all the keys that we need in order to make this thing work. And so in every adjustment that you make to a group, every member of the group is basically getting a cryptographic guarantee that the group is now like this. And if they do that wrong, or their client messes it up, or if they were removed from the group and they lose access to the keys, then they no longer have the ability to move forward with the group, and they no longer have the ability to decrypt messages that the group is sending between themselves. So this is a really powerful way of setting this up. And it means that over time, groups can change and evolve, and only the people that should have access will have access. So back to private and confidential. MLS does a really great job with the confidential part, right? It has no thought around the private part at all. MLS in the protocol itself says, the MLS protocol is about key distribution and key agreement. It's not about how you deliver the messages, and it's not about guaranteeing the identity of the participants in the group. But thankfully, we have this thing called Nostr, which is all about delivering messages and identity. So marrying MLS and its really good confidentiality with Nostr's ability to send data around, and for us to, associate identities with cryptographic keys, means that this was a perfect platform to build this stuff on. So another kind of thing that I kind of glossed over this a little bit, but there's a concept in cryptography called forward secrecy. And this is that concept that I said a moment ago, where if a key leaks, forward secrecy means that the attacker can't use that key to decrypt previous messages. It's a bit weird that it's called forward secrecy, but it's talking about things going back into the past. So this is a really important part of both Signal and MLS. So this we get for free with MLS. The other thing is post-compromise security. And this is, if a key leaks, does the person get to continue watching your conversation and decrypting messages into the future? And MLS also protects us really well through this. And so imagine you leak a key in a group, in an MLS group. All that has to happen is that someone in the group has to make one change to the group. It rotates the entire epoch of the group state, and then everybody's got new keys, and that old key is now completely useless. So the attacker loses access almost immediately. And the last piece is this authentication aspect. And this is another thing that MLS does really well, in the sense that we are embedding your Nostr public key into the leaf of the tree, that little thing at the bottom here. We're embedding your Nostr identity into that leaf. And that means that every time that group change happens, again, everybody in the group has a cryptographic guarantee that, yes, these are the people that are still in the group, and these are the people that are not in the group anymore. So that authentication piece is also incredibly important. So Nostr plus MLS, in my opinion, is the future of decentralized private messaging. And the way this works is we've come up with this protocol called the Marmot protocol that sort of defines how we're going to marry these two things together. How you take the pieces of Nostr, the identity and the relays for delivering messages, and use MLS with that to create a system where you can basically have signal level encryption, but on groups that can also scale to much, much larger sizes. Another thing that we've worked really hard to try to make sure that we can support things like multi-device, so you can have two different devices in the same group and it just works. You'll be able to do, syncing and backup of your content. One thing to keep in mind with end-to-end encryption is your messages are not living on a server long-term. The messages are on your phone, which is why when you switch phones and you add Signal back, you get back into a group with Signal, you don't have all the past messages anymore because they were on the old phone. And that is a really important part of how end-to-end encryption works. The server in the middle should never be able to have the actual plain text messages. And so these are things that we're working on currently, adding to the Marmot protocol. And again, a lot of this protocol focuses on privacy of the metadata. And this was the part that was quite tricky to do with public relays. We need to send events to public relays where the relay operator can see, other people can go and fetch messages, but we shouldn't be able to tell who's talking to who. We shouldn't be able to tell what the content of the message is. And we shouldn't even really be able to tell how many people are in groups, right? We want it to be as opaque as possible. So with this, we end up with a system that has no single point of failure. Instead of having $50 million of servers that we have to run, we run 0 servers at White Noise. We literally have our GitHub repository where the code base lives. And when you use White Noise on your phone, you're connecting to Nostr relays. And those Nostr relays can go down, they can disappear. You can swap those in your group and use different ones. You could run your own relay if you want to, stay extra private. But it means that there's no way for a central party to fall over and kill the service. It also means that there's no way for one of these relays to censor you. So if a relay decides that it wants to start trying to block the event types or block messages from you in specific, you can just switch to another relay again. It's very, very censorship resistant. And again, like I said, groups change relays. They get to choose their relays. And I think this relay choice and keeping relays quite simple is a really important part. This is also way more scalable than the Signal protocol. This is a really fancy computer science way of writing. This scales better than linearly. So the more people you add to the group, the complexity scales at a much slower rate, which means that you can have groups in theory of millions and millions of people in MLS groups, and it'll work just fine. Another benefit that we get with Nostr is that instead of doing what I was saying before, where you have to send a single message to every participant in a group, we just send a single message to relays, and everybody in the group knows how to find that message. And so it's a bit of a different model in the sense that we're not pushing messages out to everybody. You are actually going and fetching those messages from relays. And we're working on ways that you can do notifications, but notifications is sort of a separate concern in this system, which means that, again, the notifications don't have data about you that could potentially compromise your privacy. And as well, like I said, this has been, the privacy aspect has been a really big focus of how we've designed the entire system. We want to make sure that anything we publish publicly on relays basically associates, almost no data about you, other than the fact that you are available to chat on an MLS-enabled client. And another really cool feature is that this is going to be interoperable. And that means that anybody can implement implement the Marmot protocol in their client, and you can have very secure communications between different apps. So if you're using White Noise and I'm using Primal, we'll be able to talk to each other in groups, the same as if we were both using White Noise or if we were both using Primal. And this is something that Signal will pretty much never be able to do, because of their reliance on their own server infrastructure, they can't really give you the same security guarantees if you're trying to use different clients. So this interoperability piece is also really important because it means that we get to keep that guarantee in Nostr of, if you don't like the product, you just take your InPub, copy and paste it to a different client, and you can continue doing what you were doing before. So there's no lock-in to using a single app when you're using this sort of messaging. And I guess on that piece of implementation, there's actually a ton of different products out there that have already either started working on implementing this or have told us that they're absolutely going to start working on this very soon. And I think, again, this is like one of the main focuses for the group of us that are working on this, is making sure that we get this into lots and lots of different places. So I think that's just about it. I guess the last thing I'd say is, oh, there's no slide for it. Okay, never mind. You can go and find White Noise at whitenoise.chat. That's the website. It's really early, so I will say very clearly at the beginning, do not use this in situations yet where it's life and death. The app has been out about 4 months, so we're doing a security audit right now. I'd say in the next 6 months or so, we're going to be at that place. But for right now, use it, give us loads of feedback, yell to me about when it goes, when it goes sideways and it doesn't work. But yeah, I think that's everything. So does anybody have any questions? No? Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff. Also, when you have questions, everybody is here. This is a very closed space. Please all talk to each other, have conversations with each other. And with that, I want to introduce our next guest, Antonio Rodriguez. Antonio. The next one then. Hi. Okay. You want that the other people go first, or? No. Okay, nice. Well, then I can tell you one other thing that is important. You will see people with these red bands. Most of you have black ones. Since there are enough people who want and need their privacy, red means please do not take pictures of them, do not take videos of them. Also, if you take photos of groups, they should not be in there. Very important. Thank you so much. Are we ready? Okay. Well, then I can tell you one more thing. You do see this candy machine here, this other candy machine, and the QR codes next to it. And if you all look to the back away from me, above the bar, besides the food that's getting ready, there's also a QR code. And with the QR code, you can spend your sats. And then it's lightening up. There's candy coming out, and back there, it's a smoke machine that turns on. It's basically Remy hacked the system and made it possible for us that you can pay, and funny things happen. To understand if you're very curious about the technology behind it, talk to him. Where's Remy? There's Remy. Applause for you. Thank you. Please be using it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's yours. Thank you for introduction. I'm sorry for this small issues with the presentation. I thought, yeah, I hope we can solve it. I can start. Yeah, my name is Antonio Rodriguez, and yeah, I live in Berlin since. Pardon? Yeah, I live in Berlin since yeah, more than 20 years, but yeah, I'm from Cuba. I was born there. I grew up there, and yeah, it is. Yeah, I have my personal experience with a dictatorship and censorship and authoritarian regimes, and I'm very impressed. Yeah, about the people in this room and the panel and all the stories were told. And yeah, I would like to thank the organizers of this event, of course, also for giving us my project, the Pareto project, the possibility to present our project here to this audience. No, it's updates. It's not so important. Let me see. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, give us 3 minutes. We're figuring out some technical issues. Apologies for that. I hope you have a chance to chat with each other while we're doing that. Get to know the person sitting next to you, or just go grab a coffee, enjoy yourself for 5 minutes, please. And sorry about that again. I don't know, because it's not eternal.